Welcome back to Rides and Drives Team Radio. I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin. Jeff Zerschmied is in Portland, Oregon, and he just witnessed qualifying live. And Kaz is on an airplane to Spain and may or may not be able to chime in while she waits at the gate for her plane to push back. So let's get into this, Jeff. Pretty interesting qualifying. A lot of people seemingly maybe out of position to start the race tomorrow. And Felix Rosenqvist laid it down in the last minute, huh?
He really did. I think that there's a reason you actually hold the race before you award the awards, and the same thing is true with qualifying. You have to get out there and actually show that you can lay down the lap that you want. And Rosenqvist did that. He did that as we saw throughout qualifying in the last minute. The strategy there is other people, as they finish their laps, will be leaving the track. So that leaves you with a little more space in front of you to run a real flyer. So we saw that with Will Power in the first session, Alex Palou in the second, and Rosenqvist came along. And it's important to notice that Rosenqvist nipped Palou for the pole position by 2/100ths of a second.
Right.
That's and as I was telling you while we were chatting before, a stat that I like to use is it takes 1/10 of a second for you to blink your eyes. Just literally the blink of an eye is 1/10. Well, that's 5 times longer than the margin of the pole position in this qualifying session.
Yeah,
So
and Will Power wasn't that much further behind. I
no,
think
he
he
was
was.
another 10th. So there's three gaps from Rosenqvist to Power in the blink and a single blink of an eye.
Yeah,
That's how close this is.
yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting to not just the Fast Six, but to see who made it out of their groups into the Fast 12. There were some real surprises there. Two Dale Coyne cars making it into the Fast 12, and then poor Roman wanting to, having the car he thought to make it into the Fast Six, and they didn't have an extra set of new soft tires mounted for him. They were one short.
Mhm.
So, what was that all about? Do you have any insights into that?
None at all.
That's just it. It seems crazy that, um, yeah, that they wouldn't have enough tires ready for a qualifying session.
That certainly seems like somebody on the team, should be getting and talking to
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
Kaz was saying that the ghost car thing, when they show that on TV, and you can't see
Mhm.
that there in the media center, but they show the ghost car. And when Felix nipped Alex at the end, it was very much like the finish of the Indy 500, just barely pulling by at the last minute. So,
Well, that was one of the questions that was asked was, he's they asked Felix if it's his habit to just steal things at the last second.
yeah, he is
But
a
interestingly, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to me, the most significant thing that he said was, it's all well and good to have the pole position, but that means I'm going to have Alex below in my rear view mirror, and Alex never has a bad day.
Yeah. That is true. I think what was it? Road America. Alex had a bad day. He finished fifth, right?
Right, right.
So I mean, yes. I think he got knocked out at Phoenix. That's the one race he didn't finish this year, but otherwise, yeah, a bad day for Alex is still a top 10. So
Right.
catching him is hard, is really hard. One of the things that Alex talked about, I saw in the press conference afterwards, was about tomorrow's race and the fact that with the cars as close as they are, that he's just going to have to push all race long. Is that what you sensed?
Yes, yes, that's exactly what he said. He said, there's no like long middle of the race where you could settle down and cool off and just run some laps and eat away the time. That that'll leave you in last place.
Yeah,
You
there's
have
no
to be
saving your tires, no saving fuel, none of that. You just got to go, go, go and hope the strategy falls your way, right? The yellows fall at the right time.
that's going to be a factor, but it's also um, a deep skill of being able to control your car and maintain that pace when everything's exhausted, when you're out of tires, when you're out of everything. And you yourself have been in the car for 2 hours and it's probably 140, 150 degrees inside the car driving.
Right.
You notice when they come into the pits that they first thing they do is they plunk a huge air conditioner in there and just flood the cabin with cold air.
Yeah, because those cars
So
have really, really bad airflow and cooling. When they put the aero screen on it,
yeah,
that's one of the big improvements for the IR28 is going to be much better cooling. But for now, it's a problem, and they don't even have room in the cockpit to put the box for their cool suits, right? So they
right.
can't even really wear a cool suit. So,
No, the kind of physical shape that these guys have to be in to be in that environment and be operating at a at a precision of millimeters on track in the car, as we saw with Scott Dixon taking out the end of the wall
yeah,
at turn one there. I mean, and that was just a couple of millimeters that his tire kissed the corner there. Um, but that's a race ending. I mean, it ends your chances of winning the race if you have
yeah.
to then do a whole lap with a flat and then get it changed. Um,
Yeah, if you don't damage the suspension, right?
right,
Because
assuming you didn't rip everything off.
yeah,
Or bend
yeah,
things. So it's I think a lot is going to come down in the last 20 laps of the race to, which driver has been able to stay frosty, which driver can manage the car when there's nothing left, because there won't be any, as Alex said and Felix reiterated, there's no saving the car, there's no saving the tires.
right. Well, and that's interesting. Kaz just posted in the chat here that she didn't expect that mistake from Dixon. A guy with that kind of experience to nip the wall like that. And it was interesting. I heard him on TV, and I don't know if you saw this interview, but he said he went to turn in, and his car bit more than it had the previous laps, and so
Really?
he just felt like it turned harder, sharper, and so he just missed it. But then it was interesting having Felix talk about that in the press conference, and why someone asked him why more people have been hitting that wall this year, and he thought it might have something to do with the branding, where there's a big red
Yeah.
sign wrapped halfway around the corner, and when it stops, people think, oh, that's where the apex is, right, or whatever. Yeah.
It's actually a stripe on the wall,
Hmm.
vertical stripe on the wall, and then it's white
Yeah.
there at the end. And one of the things that I've noticed is that area. If you look at the close-ups, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. I love standing in that spot to take photos. But when you see the cars coming through turn one, you'll see the track, you'll see the FIA curbing that falls away. So if you drive over it, it goes up, 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 up,
Yep.
but it doesn't really upset your tires. And then they've paved the area to the right of it. Now it used to be, but that was just dirt. And
Yeah.
you would, not only would you kick up some dust on the guy behind you, but you would get dirt on your tire. So and then you are about to put all of your traction on that right front tire as you turn left on turn two. So you didn't really want to do that. You wanted to keep that tire on the FIA curbing Now they're just driving right up to the wall there.
Yeah.
Because if you give a driver a millimeter of pavement, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
Um,
And there is no such thing as track limit violations in IndyCar, like with
right,
F1.
right,
You run where, where you go. So where you think
yeah.
you're going to be fastest. So I thought that
And
was
Dixon
interesting.
was off by that much
Yeah.
when he came into that corner, and
So what do you think the
that's
chances on the start tomorrow that everyone gets through there clean?
I always choose to be an optimist. I say, look, these guys are the top of American racing, international racing, um, and you ought to be able to get through turn one. And when I was teaching here at PIR, I always used to say, you cannot win the race in turn one, but you can sure as hell lose it there.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I would, if anybody asked me, I would tell every driver that, you just don't throw it away on turn one, lap one, because you got 110 laps and, there's plenty of time for that.
We've seen some real shenanigans though in turn one at the
Oh,
starts of races here.
and
Last
you
year they
always
got through
will.
clean. I know,
Yeah.
like because I remember Kaz and I, one of our little bets, pre-race bets, was that I bet that they would get through turn one clean on lap one, and
Mhm.
it was just interesting. So, but I've seen races where it's just carnage through there on lap one.
I would have expected that, a little more in the Formula 2000 F2000 races.
Yeah,
Um, just because those are 15-year-old kids and they all want to get noticed, they all want to move up. Um, when you reach the top of your game, you really need to think more about the end and not just
right.
being
Yeah, play
being
the long
bonsai on
game.
the way in there. Yeah. Um, so in my experience, it's the young kids in the feeder series that tend to go through four wide and two deep.
Yes. Yeah, and that can be a problem for sure. It was interesting to see, speaking of USF 2000, interesting to see the winner today of that race was
Yes,
is it
Oliver Weldon.
Oliver Weldon? Yeah, Dan Weldon's kid. So another generation coming up, keeping the Weldon name alive. Dan was such a hero in this sport. Obviously,
Absolutely.
the chassis they're running now, they named in tribute to him because he really helped
Yeah.
develop that car. So
You
that
know,
that
um,
was
yeah, it's interesting. I looked up Oliver's bio and it says current occupation, eighth grade student. I mean, the kid's 15 years old. Uh, so he's in eighth grade, 15 years old. And he was only a few months old, sadly, when his father was
yeah.
killed. So I didn't get a chance to talk to him. The closest I got was seeing him on grid before he went out and won the second race of the two races today
Wow.
that they had. But he led the race the entire way. Really had the whole thing in hand, and that's the standard for moving up in these feeder series. Is you need to win your championship. You need to obviously be the class of that racing series.
Right.
And typically it's only one or maybe two kids who get to move up next year. And so
Right.
I would expect that we're going to see Oliver Weldon in Indy next within the next couple of years.
Yeah, he'll probably run USF Pro next year.
Pro next
And
year, Indy next after.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that'd be crazy to see him at 17 years old or whatever in an Indy Next car,
Mhm.
right? But good for him. And it's funny because we do have these scions of giants racing
Oh yeah.
now with Enzo Fittipaldi, the nephew, I believe, of
Mhm.
of Emerson. So all these great
And Graham
genes.
Rahal.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
S-
Marco Andretti, son of Michael, son of Mario.
Yeah. So
It's a thing.
it is a thing. There are racing genes, I believe, because
Why
I
didn't I
mean,
get them?
I know I can go fast. I can't go that fast. So I had too many of my dad's marketing genes in him in me.
There
So
you go. There you go. Well, it's funny when I'm watching the in-car, and I know what PIR looks like from the seat of an SCCA sports car, and it sometimes it just takes my breath away.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I've never gone through 12 like that.
Yeah, it's amazing watching those guys come down the end of the back straight at 175, 180 miles an hour.
Mhm.
And then, the commitment it takes to go into what is that turn eight or nine,
Turn 10.
10 at the
Well,
end, right?
when you're watch one of the things I noticed is that when you're watching uh the little mock dashboard when they
Right.
show the in-car, it's saying turn 9, and then it's got a little left hook underneath it, and the distance to that to where you have to turn left. It's actually turn 10 is the left.
Ah,
So they're saying
yeah,
that thing is saying you're in turn 9, and you have that number, that rapidly diminishing number of distance until you get to the left, which is turn 10.
right.
So
Right.
that number is a little misleading.
Yeah, it's just interesting because you see it, I mean the amount of braking that these guys have
Mhm.
at points like that, the G forces that they're pulling when they're
Oh yeah.
slowing down that fast. I mean, anyone who tells you these people aren't athletes do not understand what
Oh,
it takes to drive a car. I mean, you come down to turn 5 at Road America, these guys go from, 180 miles an hour down to about 70, right? 60 miles an hour to make that turn into turn 5, that off camber left-hander. And it's just the stress and strain it puts on the body and the
oh yeah.
precision and perfection you have to hit your breaking point, get the turn in at the right place, hit the apex, track out just
Mhm.
correctly, feather the throttle as you start to pull out of there. It's just, and then when you're talking about a
Yeah.
complex like that 9, 10, 11, 12, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
it is. It is tremendously difficult, and you're managing half a dozen things at once at that point. You are, you're turning. Are you turning enough? How much is everything fighting? Do you need to change anything about what you're doing, about what the car is with your cockpit controls? And at the same time, hanging two G's in your belt.
yeah.
Um, I took a ride around once, about, gosh, 15, 16 years ago. There was that VW series of TDI Jettas
Yep.
that they were running. And I got a ride around in one of those. And they had enormous Porsche brakes on these things. And even running around in a diesel Jetta
Right.
with one of these pro drivers, I was hanging in my seatbelts, uh, through when they would brake.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people don't realize. Anyone who's not been in a race car, people listening to this podcast, casual fans who watch racing, the thing that people don't realize is the biggest difference is how late and how hard drivers get on the brake, right? They stop
Yes.
way later than you or I ever would hit a brake, a braking point
Yes.
for a corner like that. And they are trusting their lives with those cars, knowing that the only way to go fast is to keep your speed up longer, brake harder and under control for a shorter period of time, and then get back to the throttle as quickly as possible once you get to that apex, right? It's all about shortening that time between the breaking point and the apex. And
Yes.
the guys who can do that, I mean, I've been like you. I've sat in the right seat with pro drivers, and it's like brake, 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 brake. Oh my God, and they do,
Yeah.
and they make it through. It's like I would be 100 feet back, on the brakes from where they are, and that's why I'm not
Yeah.
fast.
And that's why we have the best jobs in racing being journalists rather than being drivers.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. The game is so refined at that level that if you're off by a millisecond, that's a millisecond that the guy behind you just took away from.
right. And
Um,
these, yeah, and if it's Alex Palou right behind you, that's going to cost you a position.
you're done. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
One of the things I noticed, I went to a BMW track experience down in Thermal, and we got to drive the FIA GT4 BMW M4s
right.
in exactly the configuration. I mean, the car that I was driving would have passed tech and been allowed in to an FIA GT4 race in Europe. So, this was the real deal. And they
Yeah.
said, okay, this car has anti-lock brakes. And if you get on the brakes hard enough, you'll experience them. And so I started off, and I was kind of doing what I would usually do at thermal, and I was braking at the 3 marker. I was
Hmm.
done braking by the 2 marker, and I had to just drive down to the apex. Like I felt like I was going for groceries. So I kept, every lap I would march that braking zone in. And by the time I got my courage up to brake at the 1, which is, still farther back than these guys are braking, um, I put my foot down on that brake pedal as hard as I could, and I'm 275-pound guy. I,
Right.
I when I stand on the brakes, I can stand on the brakes. I didn't come close to activating the the anti-lock on
Right.
that FIA, you know, sedan racing passenger car. How much more is it on an Indy car when you have to be able to apply maybe 400 pounds of pressure? I mean, I bet you know chased any of these guys to the gym on leg day, you would
Yeah.
see some impressive sets of how much they're doing leg presses.
No, I totally agree with you. It takes so much physicality in your lower body to control the brakes, and you're braking with your left foot in these vehicles, right? You're not.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
like a a traditional race car where you've got three pedals and your left foot's using the brake and your right foot you're heel and toeing,
Right. Right.
and all of that. But it's just really it requires so much different kind of coordination than most drivers are used to. Let's talk about qualifying a little bit and tomorrow's race and what we
Okay.
expect to see. I mean, obviously qualifying today, Rosenqvist had a great day. Alex, of course, had a great day. I think willpower is the big story for me today.
Mhm.
And I think Rosenqvist to be at least up there. I expected Alex to be up front. Will has been sort of hit or miss, and you could really tell after the race how good he felt, or after qualifying, how good he felt about things today.
I was disappointed that he didn't come to interview, but
Yeah, they
I think
usually
he
only
he
bring the
does.
first two in. So,
Yeah. Um, I expected him to do very well just based on past performance.
right.
And I think he's put himself in a good position. You never discount Alex Below, you never discount Will Power, especially at Portland.
Yeah.
So I think what you're going to see tomorrow historically from Power is a smart race. You know, Below is really, really good. Rosenqvist really, really good. Um, you're gonna definitely see Power, I think, sit there and take the measure and figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, he's gonna have thought this through.
It's interesting because yeah, the tomorrow the strategy is going to be critical in terms of tire strategy, right? It
Yeah.
looks like the red tires are going to be faster on short stints, right? But who knows
Yes.
over a long run, will the primary tire be a better tire overall then, give you a overall longer, faster stint? And if that is the case, then I think it favors Alex because he is so good on the primary tires. We saw that at Long Beach. He knows how to drive fast on those when other guys look at them as compromised tires.
Yeah, if he can, time his pit stops to where he takes on a set of the standard tires,
Hmm.
maybe a little bit before everybody else has to pit, and other people might decide to save a pair of reds, set of reds for the end, and
Right.
really, kind of go up there and hot rod it at the end. He can have that advantage of saying, I already did my last pit stop.
Right.
Now I'm just going to run around and I'm going to run around at a good pace on these standard tires. That is that's going to be a smart strategy if you can pull it off. You can also see the advantage of saying, I'm gonna keep that last set of red tires in my back pocket and just go for an all-out sprint at the end
Yeah.
and just leave it all on track.
Yeah. It, they'll run some things in practice tomorrow morning and warm up to try to figure it out. But the conditions in warm up are not going to be close to what they're going to be like at
No,
race time.
no,
It's
no,
going to
not at
be
all.
significantly hotter. So I don't know what they're going to learn then that
Warm-up
is
time,
going to change. Yeah.
it's going to be 65 degrees, nice moist air, uh, dense air. And then by the time 130 rolls around for the race, it'll be 85.
Right.
And, everything will be different. The track will be 40 degrees warmer. The asphalt, I mean.
Yep. No, it's to me, it's just uh, what they learned today in qualifying is much more applicable. And unfortunately, with qualifying, you're not running multiple laps, so you don't find the cliff, right, on the tire. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So the other thing that happened today is we have a couple of people, I think, out of position at the start tomorrow. Christian
Well, one of them
Lundgaard.
is
Hmm?
Lundgaard, yes. He had a car problem pretty
Yeah,
clearly.
yeah.
And David Malukas, who qualified ninth, but was start 15th because of his engine penalty.
And the interesting that does is that means Penske's will be starting 16th, 15th, and 14th tomorrow. He's
Okay,
going to
yeah.
slot in right between McLaughlin and Newgarden, I believe. So, can they work together somehow to get through the field?
Well, I would think that they're discussing that over dinner today.
Yeah, I mean, once they get to the end of the race, it'll be every man for himself. But I assume that they'll find,
Sure.
whatever they can do to help them as a group go forward, I think is interesting. Um, the other driver I was surprised today was Pato Award. And again, I heard an interview with him after not making the Fast 12 saying that they rolled off the truck wrong and they were never able to pull it around. And that's not the first time this has happened this season to this team. We've
Right.
seen that several times. And I thought with Mid Ohio, maybe they figured it out and turned it around, but apparently not. You know,
Well, notably, Pato gridded 17th and qualified after qualifying.
yep.
Um, his time was 58.58, which is just 1/10
Yeah.
slower than Rosenqvist. And his pace was 120.691, 120.69 miles per hour. which is Rosenqvist was 120.8 now. So, you're really talking still, even down to 17, that hair's breadth margin of speed. So Pato won't start well. But my perennial optimistic outlook is that won't happen. I think he's got 110 laps
Yep.
and pit strategies, everything else to make that up, and that it is eminently make upable.
I agree with you. And they generally do a good job through the race of, you know, tweaking things. So, um, yeah, I think they do that really well. I think Joseph Newgarden's another one who does that well during a race where he makes his car better as the race goes on. Given that he's still struggling with his foot injury, is this a tough track for Newgarden because of that?
With a foot injury, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, he's been
I don't think
he hasn't been able to foot brake the last since Indy. He's been using his
yeah.
right foot for accelerating and braking. So,
There's really only two major braking zones at
yep.
at Portland. Um, so that's going into 12 and then again going into one. Um, the rest of the time you can be feathering, you can take it easy on your foot. Uh, so I'm sure it will help it, but I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker for it by any stretch.
Right. So, what are your thoughts then about the race tomorrow? How do you see it playing out?
Like I said, I think it's going to be the race is going to go to the person who can drive a tired car on spent tires and still keep up the pace. And that's something that I think Will Power is very, very good.
Yep.
And so I think that's how he won the last two races. The last two races here at Portland was by having that ability to keep the pedal to the metal all the way to the end.
Yeah. And he clearly has a car he loves now. It feels like they've dialed this car in for him. He said he spun his wheels coming out of turn 7 onto the back straight, and that's where
Yeah,
he lost that tenth of a second because he was up by 1 or 2 tenths at that point and then lost it
yeah.
down the back straight. Um,
I'm
so
just
he seems
wondering
very
what it's.
happy.
I'm just wondering what it's like to have enough power to spin your wheels coming out of turn 7.
What, your bug eye doesn't?
No, my bug eye never did that.
That's great. So, yeah, so it's interesting. Kirkwood's another guy. I think he may slightly out of position in P7. I was surprised he didn't make the Fast Six, but again, we're talking about, in the Fast 12, just hundredths of a second again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
At some point, it's almost like maybe you roll the dice a little bit. Who had the time and the right, the clear track ahead of them. There's so many factors that affect qualifying. And,
Yep.
if you just never got a real good clear track ahead of you loud, you might shave that last 100th and do really well, or you might
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is too, we talked about this on the pre-race was or on Wednesday, the rookie situation coming into this track. And
Yes.
Hauger had a good day, making it into
Yeah.
the
Qualified
Fast
10th.
12, qualified 10th. He's, let's see how if he can, put a race together and finish in the top 10, that'll be great. The guy who surprised me again is Mick Schumacher. If there's a track that should fit his experience, you'd think it would be Portland. Um, it's a European style road course. And that's one of the things that Felix Rosenqvist said he loves about it, that it feels very much like the
Mhm.
tracks he grew up driving on. So, while we saw Mick have a really good outing on an oval in Nashville, the courses where you'd expect him to actually run well, he just doesn't seem to have, the feel of the car or whatever at this point. Because, Barber, he wasn't competitive. Road America, he wasn't competitive. Here, it looks like he's not competitive. And while I say not competitive, yes, he's down in 23rd place, but he's still only a 4 or 5 tenths off, right? Off the top
You
10
know,
cars.
I'm gonna say I think there was, yeah, uh, not a whole lot wrong with him. He's the slowest driver who is still maintaining 120 miles an hour.
Right.
He is the last driver still in the 58-second range.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it might just be that it's his first time here at Portland,
Yeah.
and he just needs to remember where the track goes.
I wonder.
So let's
I
see if
don't
he
think
improves that.
yeah, I don't think they did a test. They came out for the test. I don't think RLL did.
They did not.
Yeah.
He was not one of the drivers who was here for the test.
Yeah. And
Um,
you can only do so
so
much in the sim, right? So,
yes, yeah, exactly. Well, the sim is an amazing tool, and drivers who religiously use the sim are going to end up ahead of drivers who don't. But you know, when you there's just something different when you're in the car and it's hot and you're at speed, and you know that if you stuff it in the wall this time, it's going to hurt.
yeah, it doesn't hurt when you hit the wall in the sim.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, Kaz just pointed this out in the chat, and I think we have to give a shout out to Rinus VeeKay again. Another
Yes.
phenomenal outing for him. He was great at Mid Ohio to be the top qualifying Chevy driver. And in P5 he outqualified the Penske's, he outqualified all the McLarens. So with this little JHR team, they've put something together, and it really looks like Renus and that team have something. And it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what they choose to do going forward. Because right now, JHR doesn't have either of their drivers under contract for next year.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if Rinus shows us that he's definitely third row material, gets himself a top five finish, that's that, that I would certainly like to walk in with a top five when I'm talking to my team owner about my next year.
exactly. And then the question will be if he's demonstrating that he's that good. Well, there are a couple other seats available that may be better. The second seat over at Meyer Shank is available, right? There's still Dixon or Dixon's car, is going to be available, right? No one, they haven't signed. Everyone is assuming it's going to Lundgaard, but he hasn't signed. They haven't signed him to that contract yet. So it's going to be interesting to see who's driving for which seats. And there are a few people that are driving for really good positions this year. And we know there are kids going to be coming in from Indy next, and probably somebody coming over from F2 again. Who knows? But we'll see some changes. But I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if Rinus VeeKay doesn't have an IndyCar seat next year if he wants
I
one.
expect we'll see him next year. But I was also impressed with Kyffin Simpson
Yeah.
being up there in the top six. I don't think your friend Santino Ferrucci is going to get the redemption that you were hoping earlier in the week.
No,
With him qualifying down at 22nd.
Yeah, he's really struggling this year. It's been a tough year for AJ Foyt in general and Santino for sure. And I'm a little concerned, for him that the Foyt people are going to look at it and blow everything up and start again next year. Um, I don't know. I mean, next year is going to be an interesting year because not only are you racing, but you're developing a new car for 2028. So
Yeah,
the people
a
you
lot of
have
work.
on, yeah, the people you have on your team have to be able to help you develop that car as well, I think. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see who sticks and who doesn't based on that.
That's an interesting uh, sort of soft skill that drivers have that we don't often see
Right.
is how good of feedback is the driver giving to their engineer.
Exactly.
And I have been really surprised at various points in my career when engineers say, "Oh yeah, so and so well-known driver couldn't tell me what was going on with the car."
Right.
Like that seems to me like it would be a prerequisite for a professional racing driver, but apparently it's a soft skill that not all of them have. And so
Yeah.
you might choose your drivers for 27 on a 1 year contract for who you know is going to be really good for developing
Well, and
28 and
yeah,
beyond.
as Kaz just pointed out in the chat here, that maybe that's why McLaren wanted Dixon, is because
Yeah,
he can really help them develop that car as much as he can contribute to hopefully winning a 500 for them next year. But
yeah,
yeah, and then also Kaz was mentioning that, Foyt has that technical relationship with Penske, and they it's not a formal development program, but they took Malukas from there.
right,
So they want to see drivers. I think Penske wants to see drivers at Foyt that could move through, up to that team. Because if Newgarden chooses to go somewhere else when his contract ends or whatever, who do they have
right.
ready to backfill? And right now Santino's not ready to take Scott McLaughlin or
Oh,
yeah,
certainly not. No.
any of those seats. So yeah. So it's interesting to see how these last six races are really going to set the field for next year. And it
Oh,
all starts tomorrow in Portland.
yeah. Portland is where they start talking about next
Yeah.
year, especially if Palou clinches the title again.
Yeah,
Is that mathematically possible? I
I
haven't
don't
done enough of the math.
I don't think it's mathematically possible tomorrow, but if he comes out and extends his lead once again, because Alex
Yeah,
doesn't have bad days, it's impossible to catch him, even if it's mathematically possible, because he's not going to get a zero, right?
right, right. That is true. That
You
is
know,
very true.
he's going to get a bad day for Alex is 20
Like you
points,
said,
17
top
points.
five, top 10.
Right. And if he gets that and, someone gets 41, they're still got a long way to go because he's got an
Yeah,
83-point lead right now over
right.
David. And David's got his work cut out for him tomorrow. Yeah. So, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff. Thank you for being there and covering it for
Be
us.
anywhere else.
And I am looking forward to a great race tomorrow and talking to you about it afterwards if you're available.
Mhm. Absolutely. I have completely blocked out the entire day. They don't expect me to pick up my dogs at the pet hotel until 7 or 8 p.m. So we've got plenty of time to talk after the race, after the interviews. We'll get it done. And I can videotape the interviews too if you want me to.
Perfect. Perfect. And Kaz will be joining us at 2 a.m. or whatever it is from Spain. So we'll all three be on at that time. So,
Well, I'm tremendously jealous that Kaz is getting to be in Spain and I'm not. But
You'll be there
soon
soon
enough,
enough, right?
soon enough.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground. There's so much more we could talk about, but we should get you on the road back to Tillamook, and
Yes.
I will talk to you tomorrow. Kaz will be live with us as well after the race, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. So for Rides and Drives Team Radio, I'm Harvey. He's Jeff. She's Kaz, even though she's been quiet today. She's been chiming in on the chat. And we will see y'all tomorrow.
Drive safe, everybody.